Have you ever heard of a bank robbery so bizarre that it left investigators wondering whether the suspect was actually a victim? This is the case of Brian Wells, a pizza delivery man who walked into a bank with a bomb strapped around his neck, handed the teller a note demanding $250,000, and set off one of the most twisted criminal conspiracies in modern history. But the real horror came after, when police realized Wells wasn't just a robber. He was a hostage in a deadly game designed by masterminds who saw human life as disposable. Stick around as we uncover the shocking story of the Erie collar bomb heist, a case filled with deception, betrayal, and a gruesome ending caught on live TV. On August 28th, 2003, Brian Wells, a 46-year-old pizza delivery driver, received what seemed like a routine order from Mamma Mia's Pizzeria in Erie, Pennsylvania. The call came in at 1:30 p.m., requesting 2 pizzas to be delivered to an address at the end of a desolate dirt road. Wells, a quiet, longtime employee with no criminal record, had no idea that he was driving straight into a death trap. What happened next remains one of the most chilling unsolved questions in FBI history. According to the official story, when Wells arrived at the drop-off location, a secluded, wooded area near a television transmission tower, he was ambushed by a group of conspirators. They forcibly strapped a homemade explosive device around his neck, securing it with a steel collar that functioned as a lock, preventing removal. The conspirators handed him a detailed scavenger hunt, instructing him to rob a bank to obtain a key that would supposedly remove the bomb. They warned him that if he failed to follow orders, the bomb would detonate on a timer. At 2:30 p.m., exactly an hour after receiving the call, Wells entered a PNC Bank in Erie. He approached the counter, seemingly calm, but carrying a walking cane that concealed a homemade shotgun. He then lifted his shirt, exposing the massive metal box strapped to his chest, and handed the teller a handwritten demand note. The note instructed the bank staff to hand over $250,000 in cash, warning that the device was on a timer and would explode if police were called. But there was a problem. The bank didn't have that much money readily available. Instead, the teller gave Wells $8,702, a fraction of what the conspirators had demanded. Surveillance footage shows Wells standing at the counter, sucking on a lollipop he had grabbed from a nearby dish, oddly composed despite having a live bomb on his body. But beneath the surface, he was racing against time. According to his supposed instructions, he had mere minutes to reach the next checkpoint and remove the bomb before it detonated. If this case is as shocking to you as it sounds, take a second to like this video. It really helps the channel out. Minutes later, police spotted Wells standing in a nearby parking lot next to his car. They quickly surrounded him, ordering him to the ground at gunpoint. As they handcuffed him, Wells desperately tried to explain what had happened, claiming he had been forced into the robbery and that someone else had locked the bomb to his neck. Officers initially treated him as a suspect, keeping their weapons drawn while waiting for the bomb squad. Wells pleaded for help, telling officers, "I'm not lying. They're gonna kill me." For nearly 25 minutes, he sat handcuffed on the pavement, surrounded by police, while the bomb squad rushed to the scene. But before they could arrive, a series of loud beeps pierced the air. The bomb detonated. In an instant, Wells was blown backward by the force of the explosion. The blast tore open his chest, killing him within seconds. Shockingly, this horrifying moment was captured on live television as local news crews had arrived at the scene before the explosion. What started as an apparent bank robbery had now turned into a murder investigation. The FBI launched an intensive search for the masterminds behind the collar bomb, uncovering one of the most bizarre and convoluted criminal plots in history. Investigators were faced with disturbing questions. Was Wells a willing participant who thought the bomb was fake? Or was he an innocent victim lured into a game he could never win? As agents dug deeper, they uncovered a cast of characters so strange and manipulative that their motives seemed almost incomprehensible. The case led authorities to Marjorie Diehl-Armstrong, a mentally unstable woman with a violent past who had previously been charged with murdering her own boyfriend. She had a reputation for manipulating people, particularly weak-willed men, and was obsessed with money and power. Investigators also linked the plot to Bill Rothstein, an intelligent but reclusive handyman who had a history of assisting Diehl-Armstrong in her schemes. Another accomplice named Kenneth Barnes, a former TV repairman and crack dealer, later admitted to being involved in the planning. The FBI determined that Diehl-Armstrong and her crew had orchestrated the heist in an attempt to fund a murder-for-hire plot. They planned to use the stolen money to pay a hitman to kill Diehl-Armstrong's father, believing that once he was dead, she would inherit a fortune. But there was one chilling detail that made this case even more disturbing. The scavenger hunt instructions left for Wells. Investigators analyzed the pages of handwritten notes found in Wells's car, which included detailed directions to various locations around Erie where he was supposed to retrieve keys that would supposedly unlock the collar bomb. But here's the horrifying truth. The entire scavenger hunt was a setup. Bomb experts later determined that the device had been rigged to detonate no matter what Wells did. There were no keys that would have saved him. No way to disable the bomb. The conspirators had designed the game as a cruel way to eliminate Wells while covering their tracks. Over the next 4 years, authorities arrested the key players in the plot. In 2007, Marjorie Diehl-Armstrong was sentenced to life in prison. Kenneth Barnes was sentenced to 45 years for his role, while Bill Rothstein died of cancer before he could be formally charged. Even with the major conspirators convicted, questions still remain. Did Brian Wells know more than he let on? Some investigators believe he may have been involved in the plot from the beginning, thinking the bomb was fake, only to realize too late that he had been betrayed and set up to die. Others argue that Wells was a complete victim, chosen by the conspirators because they knew he would follow orders without resistance. The case of Brian Wells remains one of the most complex, twisted crimes in modern history, a deadly mix of manipulation, greed, and cold-blooded murder. What do you think? Was Brian Wells a willing participant in a botched robbery? Or was he a true hostage in a sadistic criminal game? Let us know in the comments. And if you found this deep dive compelling, subscribe for more in-depth true crime stories.